You felt it, haven't you? That strange emptiness after talking to a woman, when the conversation ends, but you feel like something's missing. Not your money, not even your time. Something deeper, something harder to name. Like you gave something up just by trying too hard. And what's worse, she never had to say a word to get it. Maybe just a look, maybe just a pause. And you're left wondering, how did her silence feel like a victory, and my effort feel like a loss? That question sits at the core of something Nietzsche understood better than most modern men do. This isn't about playing tricks. This isn't about manipulation. This is about something older than both of us. Something buried in nature itself. The truth is that the feminine doesn't conquer men by overpowering them, but by sensing them, feeling their instability, reading their need. We live in a culture that tells men to perform. Be louder, be smoother, be richer, say the right things, smile at the right time, post the right picture. But here's what no one tells you, that none of it works if your energy betrays you. If you seek approval beneath your charm, if you fear being left behind when she pauses, then your words don't matter. She already knows. Nietzsche saw this. He once wrote, "The voice of beauty speaks softly. It creeps only into the most awakened souls." You see the contradiction? The very thing we chase, the beauty, the connection, moves softly, not with noise, but with presence. So why are we yelling to be heard? Why do we think our voice is the weapon, when power has always whispered? Here's the truth. She doesn't care about your performance. She's watching your stillness. She's watching how you hold yourself when she says nothing, when she withdraws, when she tests you, not with insults, but with silence, with absence, with indifference. That's the battlefield, and most men fail before they even know they're being tested. We've been conditioned to believe that dominance comes from speech, that if you talk enough, charm enough, convince enough, you'll win her. But Nietzsche flips that on its head. He knew that real strength begins where words end, that the man who must persuade is already on his knees, but the man who holds his ground, the one who watches, listens, waits, he becomes something she can't figure out. And that mystery is irresistible. But it's not a mystery for its own sake. It's not silence as a game. It's silence as presence. It's the kind of stillness that comes from not needing to be liked, from not fearing her disapproval, from not tying your self-worth to her reaction. That's what she's testing when she grows cold. Not your ability to warm her, but your ability to stay warm without her. And let's go deeper. Nietzsche didn't see women as weak. Quite the opposite. He saw them as nature's most refined strategists. Subtle, adaptive, masters of the invisible. While men shape the world with law, logic, and muscle, women shape it through intuition, impression, and absence. And that's why most men lose. Because they try to outmuscle the ocean. They try to control the feminine with tactics, when her power comes from movement, from emotion, from mystery. You bring a hammer to the sea and wonder why everything you build washes away. So what's the alternative? You grow out of the boy inside you, the one who panics when she pulls away, the one who texts right after being ignored, the one who debates when disrespected. That boy, she feeds on him, not because she's cruel, but he gives her power without knowing it. A man, a Nietzschean man, does not explain. He doesn't complain. He doesn't chase. He withdraws, not as punishment, but as principle. And that withdrawal, that quiet, grounded, deliberate stillness, it speaks louder than any monologue, because in that moment, when he no longer reacts, he becomes unreadable. And that's the thing women fear more than rejection, a man they cannot read. Most men are easy. Say the right phrase, ignore them a little, and they crack. They explain themselves. They fight to prove their value. They beg to be seen, but not him. He doesn't try to fix the mood. He doesn't argue for his worth. He doesn't panic when she grows quiet. He just stays still. And in that stillness, he becomes a mirror, a reflection she cannot bend. Nietzsche warned, "He who fights with monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster." And the monster? That's what you become when you try to argue, to control, to explain your way out of emotional chaos. Every time you react, you become what you're trying to escape. A man ruled by the outside world, by her moods, by her validation. But the Übermensch, Nietzsche's ideal man, isn't controlled by the world. He shapes it. He walks through it like a storm, untouched, because he's not trying to be understood. He's not begging for his truth to be accepted. He knows, needing to be understood is a silent addiction of the weak. You want her to feel your worth? Then stop needing her to understand it. Because the moment she senses that you don't care whether she sees your pain, your truth, your brilliance, she starts to feel something deeper than admiration. She starts to feel respect. And from respect grows desire. Because nothing attracts the feminine more than a man who chooses peace over performance, who carries himself not to be seen, but because he has nowhere else to go but forward. This kind of man doesn't rush to answer a cold text. He doesn't explain himself after being disrespected. He doesn't adjust his pace to win her over. He let go. And in that letting go, something powerful happens, not in her, but in you. You begin to realize that silence isn't emptiness. It's presence, sharpened. It's the strength to witness tension without interrupting it, to sit through discomfort without fixing it. When you say nothing, she starts hearing everything. Her fears, her expectations, her projections, her control. Because now, she has no one else to bounce off of. You've become the void, and in that void, she sees herself. And that's the one place she has no power. Because for the first time, she's not the mirror. You are. Once a man stops reacting to a woman's emotional rhythm, when he stops answering every silence with a question, every test with a chase, something fundamental in the dynamic shifts. But this isn't the end of the story. This is where it begins. Because now, she starts to push. Not out of cruelty, but out of curiosity. She needs to know, what are you made of? And more than that, can she trust it? A woman will test a man not because she wants to break him, but because she's hoping she can't. She's not always aware of it, but her soul is reaching for something solid, something that won't collapse just because she changed the temperature in the room. So she starts with silence, with distance, with absence, and she watches. She doesn't even need to say anything. That's the test. Can you hold the line? Can you sit through her emotional withdrawal without begging for connection? Can you stay centered while she drifts, pulls back, or even acts like you're not enough? Most men can't. That's the reality. They reach out, they text, they explain, they argue, and every time they do, they reveal what Nietzsche called a weakness in the will, a need for affirmation, a need for things to feel stable before they are. But the woman's feminine energy doesn't work that way. She doesn't test you when she feels safe with you. She tests you to see if she can feel safe. She pokes at the wall to see if it crumbles. Nietzsche didn't write for the kind of man who needs to be told he's doing a good job every 5 minutes. He didn't write for the man who panics in the dark silence of a woman's mood. He wrote for the one who stands calmly in the uncertainty, not because he enjoys it, but because he no longer fears it. And the moment you stop fearing her withdrawal, her silence, her coldness, that's when the game flips. You begin to see clearly. She was never your enemy. She was your mirror. And now, that mirror reflects your stability. Because here's the psychological truth women won't tell you, but always show you. They don't fall for men they can control. They fall for men who make them feel safe by being unmoved. Let's go deeper. What does unmovable actually look like? It's not pretending not to care. That's avoidance. That's insecurity wearing a mask. Unmovable means you've already decided who you are, and no amount of emotional weather is going to change that. She goes cold? You stay warm but not needy. She doesn't reply? You don't double text. You go live your life. She disrespects you? You set the boundary. Once. Then leave it. You don't keep explaining. You don't beg her to meet you in clarity. You exist in clarity, and let her find her way to it or not. That is the most terrifying and magnetic thing a woman can experience. A man who doesn't flinch when she weaponizes absence. A man who lets her leave if that's what she chooses, and doesn't even blink. Why is that so unsettling? Because it changes the frame entirely. In most relationships, especially in modern dynamics, women are used to being the emotional thermostat. They control the warmth, the tone, and the direction. They push a little and men fold. They pull back, and men chase. They hint at dissatisfaction, and men try harder. But when that pattern stops working, when she pulls back and you pull back even further, not in anger, not in pride, but in peace, it disorients her. And now, she's the one wondering, why isn't he chasing me? That's when she starts to doubt. Not you, herself. Because if you're not moving to earn her attention, she has to ask, did I lose something valuable? And that's where power is born. Not in control, but in contrast. In a world full of men who talk too much, react too fast, and beg too soon, your calm becomes dangerous. Not because it's aggressive, but because it reveals a new reality. You don't need her to feel whole. Nietzsche warned us, man is the cruelest animal. But cruelty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the calm withdrawal of energy from someone who expected you to keep giving it, no matter how they treated you. And when you stop giving, when do you stop explaining? When do you stop reacting? That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And clarity cuts deeper than any insult. It says, you are free to leave, but so am I. And most women? They've never felt that before. They're used to men who need closure. Who needs to be heard? Who needs to be forgiven or understood? But you don't need any of it. Because your center isn't built on being seen. It's built on seeing. You see the game. You see the pattern. And you choose not to play. This silence, this refusal to be baited, debated, or explained, this is what Nietzsche called the will to power. Not the will to dominate others, but the will to dominate yourself. Most men believe silence is passive. They think being quiet is weak. Not reacting means they've lost. But real silence isn't absence. It's presence, weaponized. You let her scream into the void, and the void doesn't scream back. That's the mirror she wasn't expecting. Because now, you're not just ignoring her. You've become unreadable, unsolvable, a riddle with no answer. And women don't fall in love with solutions. They fall in love with mystery. But here's the catch. The mystery only works when it's authentic. If your silence is performative, if it's a mask to win her, it will collapse. She'll feel the performance. But if your silence is real, rooted in dignity, detachment, and self-worth, she won't be able to stop thinking about it, about you. That's the difference. The man who goes silent to win her loses. The man who goes silent because he no longer needs to win becomes unforgettable. And here's where Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch takes full form. This man doesn't operate from fear. He doesn't speak just to fill the silence. He doesn't move just to be seen. He is still, solid, silent, not because he's playing games, but because he's finally done playing himself. He's not rejecting love. He's rejecting dependence. And if she wants to be part of his world, she must meet him there, not through chaos, but through respect. Because that's what this all comes down to. Not domination, not strategy. Respect. And the only way to earn it is to stop asking for it. Let her test. Let her twist. Let her disappear. But you stay still. Because the man who does not move is the one who makes her question everything. And in that question, desire is born. You've withdrawn your reaction. You've held your silence. You've refused to chase, to explain, to beg. And in that space, something has begun to shift. Not just in her, but in you. Because you're no longer the man you were when this began. You don't just know the game. You've stepped outside of it. But here's the twist. The real test of your silence isn't when she ignores you. It's when she comes back. When she softens. When she re-engages. And you feel the temptation, deep in your bones, to finally break that silence. To pour your feelings out. To tell her how strong you've been, to prove that you never stopped caring. Don't. Because the moment you speak just to relieve tension, you return to the exact place you escaped. That's what most men don't understand. They think the final step is to win her. But Nietzsche never taught men to win women. He taught men to win themselves. And when you've done that, truly done that, there's nothing left to prove. You don't speak to be understood. You don't stay to be praised. You don't react to be loved. You walk through life like a man who has already chosen himself. And that, more than any tactic, any performance, any charm, is what transforms you into the one thing she cannot control. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've stopped playing altogether. Let's break this down. Every time you've reacted in the past, you've handed over a piece of your center. You got quiet when she got loud. You got louder when she got cold. You tried to match her energy, thinking that would restore balance. But energy isn't matched, it's led. The masculine doesn't echo, it anchors. It holds the line when everything else is shifting. And when you finally live from that place, not as a tactic, but as your natural state, you become more than just attractive. You become dangerous. Why? Because now she can no longer manage your emotions, and the woman who cannot manage you emotionally must finally face herself. Nietzsche understood this. He wasn't writing for men who wanted approval. He was writing for men who wanted freedom. And freedom doesn't come from being right. It comes from being unmoved by what isn't real. That's what you're doing now. You've detached from the illusion that love means submission, that being understood means being safe, that being emotionally expressive always means being strong. Sometimes it does, but most of the time, it means you're trying to earn a place in her heart that she never promised to give. And that's why Nietzsche said, there is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness. You have to feel without being ruled. You have to love without losing your boundaries. You have to stay without getting pulled out of yourself. This isn't emotional deadness. This is emotional sovereignty. It means you can look at her storm, her silence, her resistance, and still say, I choose peace over persuasion. Because the truth is, you don't outsmart a woman by being clever. You outsmart her by not needing to be smarter, by stepping off the emotional chessboard and saying, play by yourself if you must, but I no longer move unless I want to. That's not coldness. That's power. It's the kind of power that doesn't control others. It simply doesn't get controlled. And that's what terrifies her. Because now, you've become the one man she cannot manipulate. Not through withdrawal, not through affection, not through tears, not through seduction. She's used to men bending. You don't. She's used to men explaining. You won't. She's used to men cracking under pressure. You hold still. You've become what she's never met before. A man who doesn't chase, doesn't flinch, and doesn't ask to be chosen. You choose yourself. And from that place, you choose her. Not because you need her, but because you're free not to. That difference? That's everything. Because now, for the first time, your love has weight. It's not flattery. It's not needed. It's not a projection. It's true. And when a woman feels truth, not just words, not just promises, but anchored masculine truth, it rewires her. It makes her drop the mask. It makes her question the game, because you've given her nothing to push against. You're not the wall she climbs. You're the mountain she must rise to meet. Let her accuse you. Let her test you. Let her vanish. Let her cry. And you don't respond. You decide. You decide when and if to engage. Not based on her reaction, but based on your values. Because the Nietzschean man doesn't need a reaction to feel powerful. He doesn't measure himself by how loud he is, how many followers he has, or how many women adore him. He measures himself by one thing: how still he can remain when everything tries to shake him. And that stillness, it speaks. It speaks when she tries to argue and you don't bite. It speaks when she threatens to leave, and you calmly say, you're free to. It speaks when she finally returns and finds you exactly where you were, unchanged, unmoved, unapologetic, not because you're stubborn, but because you were never pretending. This is the death of the needy self, the self that begged, the self that pleaded, the self that explained, over and over again, hoping to finally be heard. He's gone, and what's left is something rare, something beautiful. A man who walks away not in anger, but in completion. A man who can watch her leave and feel nothing but clarity. A man who can be alone in a room, silent, and still be the loudest presence in it. That is the final ascent. Not to dominate women, not to manipulate love, but to become the one thing that no one, not even the most chaotic feminine force, can pull off center. Because you're not hiding your emotions. You've mastered them. You're not faking your silence. You are the silence. And when she finally looks at you again, when she looks into your eyes and sees no fear, no clinging, no unfinished story, just peace, she'll understand the truth. She never really had power over you. You gave it to her. And now, you've taken it back. So what happens next? Maybe she stays. Maybe she doesn't. That's not your concern anymore. You don't walk to get her back. You walk forward. If she meets you there, on your terms, with real respect, you welcome her. If not, you keep walking and never look back. That's the man Nietzsche was writing for. Not the loudest, not the flashiest. The last man standing, silent, still, unshakable. So if this message hit something deep, something ancient, within you, don't let it end here. Like, share, subscribe. Not because I need the numbers, but because somewhere out there is a man who's about to break. He's about to fold, about to chase, about to beg, and he needs to hear this first, because he's not weak. He's just forgotten that silence is where his power begins.